treasures could never measure. Just give me Jesus. Just give me Jesus. Lord, here is my life. I lay it all down. I'd rather have Jesus. I'd rather have Jesus. 'Cause all of the treasures could never measure. Just give me Jesus. Just give me Jesus. Lord, here's my life. Lord, here is mine. I lay it all down. I'd rather have Jesus. I'd rather have Jesus. I'd rather have Jesus. All of the treasures could never measure. Just give me Jesus. Just give me Jesus. Just give me Jesus. Sing, Lord, here is my life. Lord, here is mine. I lay it all down. I'd rather have Jesus. I'd rather have Jesus. Sing, all of the treasures could never measure. I'd rather have Jesus. Sing, I'd rather have Jesus. Sing, Lord, here is my life. I lay it all down. Sing, Lord, here is my life. I lay it all down. Sing, Lord, here is my life. I lay it all down. I'd rather have Jesus.
Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Transformation Tidbits with Patrice, where we're transforming the way you think. We're empowering you to overcome obstacles, and we're igniting the power, the passion, and potential that lies on the inside of you. I am so excited to be here with you on this morning, and I'm excited that you have taken time out of your morning, this early morning, to come and just hear a word of transformation on this morning. We're going to be talking about plunging into position. We've come to a point in time in 2024 that we're into the next to the last month of 2024, and we need to plunge into position. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to tackle. I'm ready to be in position so that I can make a touchdown in this fourth quarter. I'm ready and I'm excited to see how God is going to set me up and to make me stand, to get me ready to do whatever it is that needs to be done for 2025. How many of us realize on this morning that we're in transition, that no matter what has happened last week and the week before, we got to gird up our minds and be prepared for what's going to come our way. Be prepared for action. So, on this morning, we're going to be basically talking about three integers on today. We're going to be coming from Jeremiah, the first verse, and the 17th, the first chapter, and the 17th verse. And it says, "Get up and prepare for action." He's telling Jeremiah, go out and tell them everything I tell you to say. And he said, don't be scared. On this morning, I want to come and tell everybody, I don't know about you. The world around us may be shaken. The world around us and people's ideals may be going haywire, but I am not going to be afraid. I might get tired sometimes. We might become tired because of the weariness that's in the atmosphere. But how many of you realize that you just got to get up and you got to try again? The woman of God who preached for us on youth, they told us that we might become weary. We might become tired. We might get exhausted where we are right now. But how many of you realize that we've got to try again? And this time when we try, we can't try by ourselves. I got to grab my sis. I got to grab my neighbor, because we can do more together than we can do individually. We can do more together and we can accomplish more together. When we talk about plunge this morning, we're talking about a sudden start to do some kind of activity. We're talking about enthusiasm about what we do. Whatever God has called us to do, however He has positioned us in 2024 to meet what we need to meet in 2025, how many of you realize that we need to be active and we need to be able to be enthusiastic about whatever it is going to do? When we talk about plunging into position, we're talking about calling us to set fully into the role or the purpose or the responsibility that God has prepared for us. There is a role, there is a responsibility, there is a position, there is a purpose and 2024 that God has prepared you for. And this purpose, this calling on your life wasn't just for 2024. It was to position you in 2024 for you to embrace whatever it is that you're going to be utilized for in 2025. This is only the beginning. There is so much that is required of us in 2025. We are the ones that has the solid foundation. We are the one who's connected with, it's going to be able to speak peace from the Father into the atmosphere. So we've got to line up. We've got to position ourselves. We have to understand that each and every one of us on this line, there is a unique calling that we have. There is a unique responsibility that we have. And it might be seeming that that calling or that responsibility might be daunting right now. It might be a little bit overwhelming for us right now. It might seem stale to us right now, but I dare you to become excited about what God has called you to do. Now, I dare you to muster up some enthusiasm inside of you. I dare you to become active on today, to get into the place that God has designed for you. We've got to we talk about having different responsibility. We talk about the mighty purpose that God has ordained for our life. But when we talk about it, can we taste that thing? It's not until that thing has resonated on the inside of us that we'll be able to spew it out of our mouth. We'll be able to plunge into the position, even if it seems dark, even if it seems daunting, even if we're tired right now, we will muster up the strength we need to be able to step out, to be able to do whatever it is God has called us to do. If you're not excited about your purpose, who else will be? So when we talk about being in position, we're talking about unfolding the thing. We're talking about taking small steps into preparation. I don't know about you, but as I began to look over 2024, I began to look at the past 10 months since I am in the 11th month and you are too. I began to see how God strategically placed some things in my life to prepare prepare me for whatever I've got to encounter. I don't know about you, but we serve an awesome God who strategizes with the things he wants us to do. He gives us positions. He gives us purpose. He gives us things that we encounter in life to set us up for where he wants us to go. But we've got to listen to hear the direction that God wants us to do. Sometimes we listen, but we struggle with the things that God is calling for you. But I'm challenging you on this morning to take a step out. I'm challenging you on this morning to get into position. I'm challenging you on this morning to get excited about what God has called you to do. There is something that lies on the inside of you that somebody else stands in the need of. But if you're not willingly to share, if you're not excited about what God calls you to do, why should someone else be? On this morning, we're going to talk about 3 points. And the first point we're going to talk about is I need you to get up. Get up and prepare for action. Even where you're sitting out right now, get up. Sit up in that bed, begin to walk around in that room, begin to get the energy that you need. Get up and prepare yourself. I don't know if you got to reinforce the steps that God told you to take. I don't know if you got to physically, mentally, and spiritually get yourself together because you've just been so casual so far this year. But I need you to put some fire in you on this morning. I need you to understand it's time for you to rise up from where you are, put on your clothes, get yourself together, arm yourself for what's about to come your way, and tell that thing that's coming your way, you might slay me, but I've got fire, I've got energy inside of me to try again. You might have calls for predicaments in my life to come about, but those things that I'm encountering right now, they have no charge over me because I've decided on today that I'm getting up. I'm getting dressed. I'm taking off my grave clothes and I'm going to get myself in position. Put on your coat. Put on your hat and tell yourself, this is the day that I'm declaring that I'm going to do what it is that God has called me to do. I'm going to line up. I'm going to get my mental together. I'm going to get my spirit together. If it means I've got to turn down my plate a little bit more, if it means that I've got to get in the word a little bit more, if it means I've got to go back and get some things right with some people, whatever it takes, whatever it causes me, I'm getting up from this place. I'm not going to stay in this place any longer. You got to prepare for the journey. And however that journey looks, I need you to understand that you're not alone in the tension that you feel on your journey. You might be ready, but there might be some fear that you have. I need you to grab that sister. I need you to grab that brother. I need you to tell them that we are going to make it. We're going to take one step at a time, but together we will survive. I need you and you need me in order for us to make it, in order for us to stand. My coat might be buttoned the wrong way, but because you are my sister and you see that I misbuttoned my coat, you're going to come along and say, sis, you misshoveled on today. You might be misfit on today, but let me get that coat together for you. Let me rebutton you on the day so that you're able to gear up the lines of your mind. You're able to gird on the things that you need in order to fight this race together. I got you and you got me, and we are better together on today. So prepare. When we're preparing and we're getting up, we got to identify our strengths and we've got to identify our weakness. If I have a weakness in this area, let me connect with you in your strength. So though I'm weak, you've got me under the arm. You're holding me up. People don't need to see that you're holding me up, but because you see the weakness in me, you come stepping to me. You come stepping along with me. You come aside to me and you're holding me up. We're holding each other up because we know we got a task that we've got to fulfill. We've got a journey that we've got to walk together on. We've been called for a purpose. So we got to get up and be prepared. We've got to prepare. We've got to arise. We've got to get up because the light has come for each and every one of us on today. And it's time to walk. It's time to walk into the purpose. The journey might seem long and might seem treacherous, but you can make it on today. Line yourself up with someone in your circle. It's time for us to get circles that are beneficial to us. Stop hanging around those people who are downtrodden, who are negative. Get you some positive people. Get you a sister and a brother, a uncle, a cousin, a greasy grandmother. Get you whoever you need to speak life into you. This is a season that that life is important. Allow somebody to speak life to you and disconnect from someone who's speaking doom and gloom. Get up. And when we get out, we've got to go out, which is my second point, and we've got to speak and do what God has called us to speak and do. We got to be bold in the things that God has called us to do. We have to have a boldness when we're telling other people what the Lord has told us to tell them. We've got to be decisive in our action. Hey, I may not understand what God is saying for me to say to you, but I'm the vessel. I'm the voice. I'm the one that's crying in the wilderness, preparing the way for whatever is coming. And this is what he says. You may not like the message that I'm delivering, but I come to tell you that I'm a voice for the Father. And if the Father tells me to say it, I'm going to have boldness in that moment to declare whatever it is that I'm prepared. I'm in position for action. How many of you realize that action requires something of us? It's a verb that means that I'm doing. It's a verb that means that I'm performing. It's a verb that means that action shall proceed out of me. Boldness is backed by readiness. When you're ready to achieve something, when you're ready to walk into something, there is a boldness that comes along with that. You got to strengthen yourself in your position. How do I strengthen myself? I speak life to myself in the mirror. How do I strengthen myself? I get around people who have strength. How do I strengthen myself? I refine the craft that God has given me. I go back and I take classes. I go back and I do some research. I go back to refine the thing or the position or the purpose that God has called me to do. I've got to get some resources together so that I have material to be able to give out to other people when God tells me to speak. In the natural, in many of the jobs and corporations that we work in, every year we have to go back and we have to take classes. I don't know about you, but every year I have to go back and I have to take classes. I have to refine my craft. So just like in the natural, it's the same in the spiritual. I work in healthcare. So every year we got to go back and we have to take these classes talking about fire, talking about, what happens if there's a bomb, talking about different things. It is required of us to do that in order to maintain our job. I come to let you know your purpose in God. It's required for you to refine that purpose in order for you to maintain your stand in your position for God. Equip yourself, strengthen yourself for the position, strengthen yourself to walk therein. You got to engage with a purposeful mindset. Step into position. It doesn't mean that you're perfect, but be authentic. We're not all perfect, but we've got to be our authentic self. We've got to do what God calls us to do. So we got to get up. And then we got to go out and get out to speak what God has told us to be. After we get up and get out to speak what God has told us to be, we cannot become scared of the faces of people. One thing I've taken many speech classes. I may not sound like it, but I have. I've taken many speech classes. And one of the things that they tell us in speech, when we're looking at people, you've got to imagine, well, for me, I imagine people in their underwear. So when I'm looking at you, I try not to laugh, but it helps me to be able to articulate with you. Another thing that I do, if I remove my glasses from my face, and if I'm looking out in the audience, I really cannot see anyone. I've been told many a times that why you stared at me in the audience, and I'll be saying to myself, I really don't know what you look like. I don't know what you got on. I don't know what your facial expression is if I take off my glasses because I can't see you. But when we begin to articulate, you've got to look out. You've got to put your focus on something so you can declare what God has told you to declare. Sometimes when I begin to speak fast or when I become scared, most of the time I begin to speak fast. I have learned how to take a deep breath and let it out. Or I've learned how to stop for a moment, gather myself together, and then begin to speak again. I don't know what it is that you're scared of on today. I don't know why you won't step out, but the scripture told us in Jeremiah, don't be scared. Don't allow fear and distraction to hinder the mission that God has called you for you to do. Acknowledge whatever your fear is. Recognize your fear and deal with it. But it's time for us to arise. It's time for us to get dressed, get prepared, get out and speak what God has called us. It's time for us to own the message that God has given us. Own it with confidence on this morning. Own it that I've got to tell it because the Father has put it on the inside of me to tell whatever it is that He has called you to do. Find your voice on this morning. Your voice might be trembling at times, but know that it is your voice and speak with clarity. Speak with boldness. Speak with determination on this morning. Speak knowing that you are the expert in whatever it is that God has called you to say, whatever it is that God has called you to do. If you are a teacher, teach your lesson with confidence. Teach your lesson like you are the expert. Nobody knows whatever it is that you're teaching about, so you are the expert. Tell it like you know that you can taste that thing. Tell it like you know that you have lived whatever it is that you're articulating to someone else. But in this season that we're entering into in 2025, it's time for us to be bold people. It's time for us to put our fear to the side. It's time for us to get up and to acknowledge the call that God has had on our life. We got to trust in our own calling. We've got to know that God has called us to do whatever it is He called us to do. We're going into the fourth quarter. And in this fourth quarter, it's not just about wrapping up for the year, but it's about setting the tone for your future. I don't know what God has called anyone on this line to do except myself. But one thing I do know, that I've got a determination to speak as an article of God. I've got a determination to do what God has called me to do. I've learned how to love my craft. I may not be the expert in it, but I'm an expert for my eyesight. I'm an expert in knowing that if God has called me to do it, He has equipped me and given me the equipment that I need to stand strong, to stand out, and to encourage who that I'm called to encourage. On this morning, my Tuesday transformation tidbit to you is to plunge into position. Focus, become encouraged, become committed, empower yourself to finish this year with a sense of accomplishment. Get prepared for what's about to come our way. God has strategically called you, and me to do what we need to do for 2025. We're coming into the final quarter. We're almost into the last month of the quarter. It's almost over. We've got to make the touchdown. And the only way that we're going to do it is we've got to acknowledge what God has called us to do. We got to get up. We got to get out. And we can't be scared. You got to push to be transformed. Even if it seems that the speed that you're going is going at a slow pace, challenge yourself. God, I'm tired. God, I'm dreary, but I got to get up and I got to fight again. I've got someone who's waiting to hear just what I've got to say. So I'm plunging into position on today. That's my Tuesday transformation on today. Be amazing on today. Shalom. Bye-bye.